Have you ever felt alone? Alone as in you're the only one who believes a particular thing. This is what the psalmist feels right at the beginning of Psalm 12 that we're in today. He begins by saying, "Help, Lord, for no one is faithful anymore. Those who are loyal have vanished from the human race." Now, I think the psalmist is exaggerating in an acceptable way to state the severity of the spiritual condition of the nation. He looks and he reflects on how previously people would have stood for God, and yet they've quickly abandoned him. They've compromised their principles. We can think this perhaps of our nation. We can wonder about how in the past it stood for God so more, and yet today there doesn't seem to be anyone who's prepared to stand up and stick up for what's true and right and biblical and honourable. And yet, instead of doing that, which is very easy to do, I think that should drive us to our knees to pray for our nation and to pray for our leaders, that God would have mercy on them and that they would see the truth, so that they then would stand for what's right and honourable. Many of us have been praying for Boris Johnson while he's been recovering from the virus. And we're thankful to God that we believe that he was surrounded by a number of different Christian people when he was in hospital. And we're hoping that they had opportunities to share the truth with him. And that's another thing I feel challenged about. Instead of despairing that there's no one left anymore who seems to love God, we should be looking at ourselves as well and saying, well, why is it so quiet in our nation? What about us? Are we making the stand we should be? Are we being heard because we're being bold in our witness? And anyway, the psalmist, right towards the end of this psalm, there in verse 7, even if he was the very last person who's faithful, which is not true, even if he is the very last person who's loyal, again, which is not true, ultimately, he says, verse 7, you, Lord, will keep the needy safe and protect us. So ultimately, God is there for us. And God is looking out for us, his people, no matter the state of things spiritually all around us. What comfort, what encouragement.